Denise Gitsham in for some reaction and analysis to all the news today. And why don't we just thank you, Denise, for coming on. She's a Republican strategist. Talk a little bit about what Colby and I were just speaking about at the end. Then we'll work our way into the Middle East and everything that's going on today. That Trump answer is Colby right? Not great, not a great topic.
I mean, nobody wants to revisit January 6th. I think that the destruction and all that we saw go down was just a horrific moment in history. And to characterize it as a day of love just seems so out of line with mainstream Americans. But if Trump doesn't hold on to this line, he loses that enthusiastic base of his support that needs to show up on Election Day and in these upcoming weeks, because they all believe, there's like 2/3 of the Republican Party or more believes that the election was stolen.
Yeah, because he's been telling them it was, even though it wasn't. He's been the one feeding them that.
Right. But listen, I've worked in Republican politics long enough as poll monitor and a Republican lawyer in the states that he talks where a lot of this election nonsense has happened. And there's always some sort of funny play. So it's not completely, beyond the pale that this election could have been stolen. And that's what I think he wants to keep, that just air of just doubt in the mix. So he has to hold on to that. That is just a smart strategic play by him that doesn't sit well with people who are completely opposed to him, doesn't sit well with me personally, but it's working for him. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, he gets a little bit of doubt, but there's no evidence to support there was any kind of widespread fraud that would have impacted the election's outcome.
Right.
But if there's any kind of funny business going on anywhere, you play into that and then start to create this doubt. We know the story's been going on for years.
Exactly.
I want to talk about the other campaign as well while we have you, because the breaking news of the day came from the Middle East with the leader of Hamas being killed. You talked about, shoring up a base and managing your constituents and appealing to other people at the same time. Now there's a challenge for the Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris. We saw it play out in real time today. How does she handle this, and how might this news affect the race, do you think?
Well, I think it would have been a great opportunity when she made comments instead of President Biden, which, by the way, was really surprising, when she made comments about, trying to appear presidential in regards to her response about what has happened to the head of Hamas. I really hoped for more emotion, I think. I think, every single person, regardless of where you sit on this war, should be so grateful that terrorist leaders like the head of Hamas have been decapitated. Like, this is something that anyone who loves life, who loves peace, who loves all the things that so many people say that they love, should be celebrating. It would have been a fantastic opportunity, and it was a missed one by her that other foreign leaders didn't miss, to call on Hamas to release the remaining 97 hostages. That includes 7 American U.S. citizens that are hostages. And so I think that she's really trying to thread the needle in a way that didn't work for President Biden and isn't working for her in places like Michigan, where she's trying to play at both sides of this issue. And she has no moral clarity and no real, I didn't see or feel the emotional conviction that I thought one ought to feel when someone this evil, that people on all sides of the aisle can agree on, this evil actually is dead. That's a reason to celebrate.
So as a final point, because we're going to dig into those numbers, you mentioned Michigan in our next hour, where the trends have been moving toward Trump to make this race even more of a toss-up than it already was, if that's possible. But Harris has been losing some ground in Wisconsin, where she is today, and certainly in Michigan. How do you see the race here with all of these factors, kind of worked in?
Yeah, I see, really Trump's strategy of picking JD Vance and really appealing to working class Americans as working. I mean, it's working. This was the whole point of him appealing. When you think about what people say about Trump and his appeal, they talk about how he appeals to working class Americans, people without college educations. When you saw what happened with the Teamsters, that 65% of their members, run-of-the-mill members, supported Trump, and then you saw in Pennsylvania their leadership buck their membership and choose to endorse Kamala Harris instead. It goes to show sort of that division between those who are politically beholden. I'm sorry?
You think it's because of JD Vance?
JD Vance? I think that's part of it. There's not, at the end of the day, vice presidents play very little role in terms of, making or breaking an election or a top-of-the-ticket decision. But I think the fact that he did choose JD Vance, who understands how to speak to normal Americans like me, that is something that I actually think moves the ball in his favor. And, you know, this is an election where inches matter. And I think that just in the same way that Kamala Harris chose someone who is so progressive on the left as a signal to the left that she was with them, like the far left, I think that that choice of JD Vance really helped him solidify what working class Americans really felt like, which is that the elites in the Democratic Party have departed from him, and JD Vance is on their side.
Interesting. All right, Denise.